The return home from combat can often leave service members feeling out of place with the most important people in their lives, their families. In deployment, soldiers grow accustomed to a new lifestyle and a new family. Those buddies that bond together to defend each other. The lifestyle change is prolonged and becomes familiar, and that becomes the new normal. The families also change when the soldier is deployed, right? They kind of figure out how to run the household without them, right? The family is a system. When one family member is absent, the whole family system changes. And all of the family members adopt a new normal way of life. What steps can a family take to reconnect with their servicemen? I'm going to give that to Dr. Cutler.
It's a very tough question. You know, paradoxically, early on in Iraq and Afghanistan, people complained, I can't talk to my family. You know, there's not enough telephones, there's not enough satellite systems to connect, and of course, it's half the world away, so the time is off too. And then what happened is we created enough bandwidth to do all of that, and people were saying, now that I'm talking to my family, they're telling me all these problems I can't fix, and I'm here in Iraq and they're home. And by the way, many of the military people said, I may be deployed and people may be shooting at me from time to time, but I think my family at home has it worse because they can't manage on their own. They've never had to do the things they're doing now. They're taking on challenges, whether it's changing tires or, and it may be the husband at home too, taking care of the kids, financial things, something always breaks in the house, something major when you're deployed. So there's all kinds of challenges. When people come together, there's also the problem that everybody has changed. You know, you've been through a deployment, maybe in a combat area, maybe a humanitarian mission. The kids have all grown up. You come home and you've been waiting for 6 months, 9 months, 18 months to tuck the kids in and tell them a story like they used to. You come home and the kids say, I don't need you to tuck me in anymore. Mom tucks me in or Dad tucks me in. I don't need a story anymore. I'm grown up. Don't you realize that? There are all of these things that come together. And what do you do about them? It isn't easy. I think the first thing you do is realize that everybody changes. And you have to learn to accept that. Everyone has changed. You've changed too. How do you reconnect on the things that people can do still? How can we actually respect and take pleasure in those changes instead of feel like I got to turn the clock back? You know, why isn't everything the way it used to be? And this is the meaning of living in the new normal. It isn't the way it used to be. It probably isn't going to be the way it used to be. But how do I engage this and take on this life? Because this is my life now. The kids have to say that as well as the parents. It's a very hard.
Does that mic come over with you? No.
So far.
Only so far, okay. Okay, so just give us a few more minutes and then we're going to open up to lunch and go back to our exhibiting table. So I'm just going to ask Fred this question. Fred, just briefly, should we ask, as a family member, should we ask the serviceman or woman if you feel that they're being isolated or distant, to share their story of what they saw? What questions can we ask? Just briefly, what question can we ask them when they come back? So they come back, there's a disconnect because things have changed. You see they're off. Is there certain questions we should avoid or certain questions we should ask?
You can ask general questions, but keep them in a general term. You don't want to ask, did you kill anybody? That's the last question you ever want to ask a vet. It sets them up and really keeps them further. But you can certainly ask them, tell me about the story, tell me about your overseas time, tell me about how you handled it. And stay positive and don't show any emotion to any answer you get from the vet. And those are two critical things you must do. If you ask him a question, you're getting an answer, don't show emotional strain. If you're showing emotional restraint, you're only going to make the problem worse.
All right, thank you, Brad. All right, so over here we're gonna ask this side of the room, and I know we ran long, but we were waiting for our cameraman, unfortunately. Recently, the Liberty Pass became available as a lifelong free Liberty Pass, which permits free vehicles to enter qualified veterans and Gold Star parents, spouses, and children to enter state parks. In addition to that, they've reduced prices for fishing and hunting permits. Do you feel that access to these facilities is going to make a difference? I'll ask Joe. Do you feel offering them just services like that is going to make really any impact on their post-traumatic stress experience? Or you think it's just a perk for being a veteran?
I think it actually helped them because some events like Lion Time, something that's the scenery is neutral, they get out of chaos, they have somewhere to think, and getting to these parks, especially during the summertime, will be extremely expensive. So I think it's more of a help.
Thank you. And this question is for Kevin. How do we combat, so you've obviously come across a lot of homeless veterans, given your work. He works for America Works, make sure you visit him. Make sure you get his name on speed dial. Coming across a number of homeless veterans, what do we do in an environment where it's so difficult to buy a house, so difficult to find an apartment that's affordable on Long Island? So what is your recommendation for that? Is there organizations that you work with?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just bought a house and it was a nightmare. So it's not just for homeless.
Well, that's it. Well, hold on, give me a shout out. We have Laura, who's one of our sponsors from Keller Williams, and we have Michael from Cross Country Mortgage. So if you don't want it to be a nightmare, make sure you see our sponsors. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, well, a big service out here, I don't know if anyone's heard of the Beacon House. They have a spot in Bayshore, Freeport, Northport. They're able to bring veterans in. We've recommended a couple veterans out to them. They bring them in. Sometimes they have to pay a small rent, but it's a lot cheaper than what it costs renting or buying a house out here. And they help them out. Paul at the veteran service right here in Nassau, he'll help out. We got a call one Friday night at like 5:30 in the afternoon. Veteran living in a U-Haul truck with his wife, his mom, and his 9 beagles. Craziness. It was crazy scene when I went there. But and he was able to get them a hotel through the local VFW for the weekend, and then starting Monday, we were able to connect them with the EOC, which is in Patchogue, which they help with housing as well, and then also the SUS, which is out on all Long Island. They help with housing as well.
All right, thank you, Kevin. All right, now final question is for Janet, our attorney in the house. Thank you, Janet, for being here. Your specialty is disabilities.
Yes, Social Security and VA.
Okay. Why is it that it seems, maybe it's me, why does it seem that it's so difficult for these veterans to get the disability benefits and the services to get, whether it's Social Security and why does it seem that it's so much paperwork and so daunting? Why isn't it made easy? What is your experience on what we can do to make that easier?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that, I would love to see change. Unfortunately, it's been brought to my attention that if a veteran passes away, the VA will send them a letter basically saying, I'm sorry to hear of his passing, but they don't advise sometimes widows of the benefits that are available. The VA itself, I think, is overloaded with claims. Once the PACT Act came into effect, they were just flooded with a massive amount of claims. So I think it's the waiting time. I think it's the veterans having to travel to C&P exams. Majority of the C&P exams are given to third-party contractors, and those third-party contractors will advise the veteran where they need to go for their exam. mind you, a lot of these third-party contractors are not located here in New York. So, you know, you may be a veteran who lives in Suffolk County, and they may want to send you all the way upstate, which myself, I usually advise veterans that I speak to when that happens, tell the third-party contractor, make them understand, because they're not here in New York, so they have no idea that during rush hour, it can take, you know, to travel 5 miles, it can take you 45 minutes in traffic. So if they do call to set them up, make sure that you go, but advise them why that location is just simply too far from you. So try and get it all on the table and situated once and for all.
Thank you. So obviously there's a tremendous amount of needs and obstacles in receiving the care and the benefits that our veteran community deserves. These individuals here, the panelists, our speakers, our county executive, our veteran services agencies, and the resources behind you, those tables, are just a little bit of the information that's out there. I implore you, whether you're a veteran, military family, or just a community member at large, you have no idea how many veterans you touch and see every day because they're not wearing the uniform. We have the second highest population of veterans in the country. Please understand their obstacles. Please support them. Don't ever ask them questions about things that would disturb them and agitate them when it comes to their mental state or their moral state. But you can say, oh, do you know that Suffolk County Police is hiring veterans? Do you know that Enterprise is hiring veterans? Do you know that James Donnelly right here with Safe Haven Insurance is hiring veterans? So do they need a job? If they're having trouble with housing, direct them to people like Laura from Keller Williams or Michael from Cross Country Mortgage, who are engulfed in the housing community. Or speak to someone like Kevin that can direct them to a place like Beacon House or SUS or EOC. There's options on Long Island as well. There's Newground. There's different organizations that can help, but we have to make it that it's not a big deal. Oh, you need housing? Oh, housing sucks on Long Island. You know what? I know a friend. His name's Kevin. And that's, if we change that dialogue where it's no big deal, it's just, you're just another person with struggles. Your struggle happens to be this. My struggle happens to be that. We can change the climate. I want to thank everyone that's here. Please visit our exhibitor. Okay, we have a special service amount from Pat, my financial secretary. Can I just thank my board, my board, and my board members. You know what? They think of an idea and they run with it. And I'm sorry, guys, it was so much work, but I think it was well worth it. So Pat is my financial secretary. My queen is running around. Stand up, queen. This is May. She's my treasurer. She's the acting senior in New York. Yes, she's actually a senior. I don't believe her. I ask her ID all the time. Yes, Pat.
I just want to add a situation that Blue Star Mothers is now facing, and it seems to be a big growing issue among our young veterans and some of our senior veterans as well, is the issuing of their DD-214s. So many of them, if it's lost for a veteran, trying to verify them or reobtain a DD-214 should not take an act of Congress. And this is what we are facing. Personally, my own son has been a veteran of the Navy for over 2 years and still has not received his DD-214. We are hearing this over and over again. We have another Blue Star mother in our chapter. Her son has not, and this is going back to, I think it was 2016. He has not received his DD-214. And they're issued for all different reasons, but if you served, you get one. So right now, one of our biggest challenges going toward our military as a military community, is making sure when these guys transition out, they're given their DD 214 and the benefits that they're entitled to in an efficient amount of time. They shouldn't be separated without that DD 214. And it's a matter of putting our government on notice.
I don't know, my kid served 10 years. 10 years. Her child served 10 years, does not have their discharge forms, which means they cannot get information.
Can we ask all, when you're done, can we ask all the veterans to come up for a group photo?
Okay, so that's the end of our conference portion. Please visit our exhibit tables. Lunch is on the side of on the back there. Grab a lunch. We're gonna do the honor system. Just take one, leave one for the next person. If all the veterans can come forward and all the Blue Star moms come forward. Okay. Don't forget Memorial Day